Bryce, welcome. Thank you so much for being on with me and kind of sharing your story with others out there so they can understand what it's like to work with coaches, what it's like to be part of a group that goes a little deeper into our inner relationship with ourselves. Um, so you've been part of Brotherhood now for some time. I want to say probably since it started, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I think
Kind of
since the
like the
very
beta
first.
testing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about, um, I guess, your journey before coming into the group?
sure. So it's interesting. So a lot of my life, um, I was raised by women primarily. Didn't have a super strong father figure, and when I became an adult, I started to realize that I was lacking a certain level of, structure and conviction, because I hadn't really had any healthy male role models. And I think the consequence of that really was that I also didn't have a healthy relationship with um, my own inner masculine, which was very strong. And, people would always tell me like, this is a part of, what made them feel safe around me is because of the strength of that. But my own relationship with it was a little bit rocky. And so, um, for me, it was always really special to me when I was around very empowered, self-aware men who, you know, they they were aware of themselves and they were on the same sort of path that I was on. You know, didn't matter like where they were on it, just that they were on it, because they would always end up bringing these really profound insights into my life. And they just taught me so many things. So I had mentors over the years, and um it just, I mean, it really took me from being sort of like this chaotic, unstructured adult where I struggled to really have clarity about who I was and how I was supposed to show up for the world, how I was supposed to show up for myself. And it's like now I'm, very routine oriented. It's kind of like it's a lot. I guess, could I ask, could you kind of clarify as far as like the
Yeah.
direction of like where you want me to take it a little bit? Because there's like so many roads I could go down
Yeah,
with
I
it.
mean, well, let's discuss that your relationships, right? Because when
Yep.
it comes down to it, our relationship with ourselves is really the one that dictates our relationship with everybody else. So I know for me personally, it's my relationships that taught me the greatest lessons in my life on things that I needed to change. So, talk a little bit about your some of maybe what's the biggest challenge or obstacles that you faced in previous relationships? What was that pattern, that behavior, that thing that stood out the most when you figured it out?
Mm. So I think one of the things that I found was that I wouldn't have a healthy relationship with processing anger. And
Mm,
that's something that, a lot of people within themselves, like anger and like true rage is scary. Like you don't really want to be around it, but it only
no,
becomes scary when it becomes imbalanced.
right.
And so the imbalance, I think really for me, like it people, 99% of the people who know me, they'll tell you I'm like one of the most calm people that they know. But, there are moments where I would break under stress or under something. And in those moments, the people that were around me were scared of me.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
think we
it
all
was
have that switch, for
100%.
sure.
Yep.
And everybody listening can completely relate with that right now.
Yeah. So, for me, I was like, okay, well, I need to be able to process and accept and embrace this part of myself, because the more that I resist it and the more that I push it away, the more that it has control over me. And so in a way, I just had to embrace this this inner monster, if you will, the capacity and the capability of doing great harm, of, wielding sort of the power that those types of things have, but embracing that in the idea that we can then actually take control of it because we're not pushing it away. And so it's able to kind of process and flow through us more easily. Um,
So
Hmm.
I know, and not to interrupt, but I know, a decent amount about your past and stuff. So how did it affect like kind of your overall well-being, your health? I'm sure that did a lot of damage having that kind of anger inside that you don't know how to quote unquote at the time control.
It did. So, I mean, I dealt with a lot of consequences with my health, both mentally and physically. Like, I was a stress case. Like, you know, like I said, a lot of people would know me as a really calm person, but then inside of myself, there was a lot of like subconscious anxieties. I was always worrying about things. I was always looking for the negatives. And if I wasn't consciously, then some part of me was. And I ended up passing a kidney stone when I was 20 years old, which is like super young to be doing that, mind you.
Yeah,
um some of it was dietary, but I have no doubt in my mind at this point that the majority of it was stress, and that stress was being induced and really brought on from these repressed emotions that I didn't have a proper outlet to express or to really make peace with.
got it. So, your involvement in Brotherhood, you need to kind of come in and say, hey, I want to be part of this group. What was it that, made you say, you know what, I'm looking for something like this?
I think the thing that really got me into the brotherhood came down to the fact that in this day and age, males and masculinity is being attacked from all angles. If you're a traditional man, you're wrong. If you're a progressive man, you're wrong. And it's just like which one is right, you know? And really, I think at the end of the day, it really is somewhere of a blend in the balance between between the two of them. And so I was looking for people who could understand that, and not just understand it, but work and be working towards really embodying that,
Yeah,
embracing the stronger, healthier side of, their own masculinity, but then also being in touch with their emotions and being able to be vulnerable and not like, these like there's a lot of like really toxic men out there on social media that are just popping off.
agreed.
And, they're honestly, when I hear them, I'm like, you guys are just such bullies. You're so out of touch with your emotions. It's insane. But they have
Mhm.
huge followings because they're speaking to that wounded man inside of all of
Agreed. Agreed.
these guys. And so
Yeah.
I was ultimately seeking balance and to be around people that were looking for the same thing.
Thing. It ultimately is that in a relationship with ourselves, right? You
Yep.
know. So, being part of Brotherhood, what were some of the key, I guess, realizations, or maybe like one or two realizations that you made during certain sessions being a part of that group?
Mm. For one thing, firsthand, it's just amazing to see that like everyone has their demons, you know, like everyone's coming in here with some type of like really heavy, I don't want to swear, but like, just major stuff that
I
is,
appreciate
yeah,
it. I
major
appreciate
stuff that's
it.
happened to them, and it's ripped them apart from the inside out, and they haven't really had this place to be able to go and to process that. And so um to be able to just go there and just speak so openly and honestly, and to feel like I could literally in that group say like the worst thing that I feel that I've ever like intentionally done in my entire life, and just be met with love and compassion and feel supported and just receive this like really down to earth guidance on how to like what are the next steps, like now that I've kind of spoken this. um and
Healing's a hard enough thing to go through. You bring up a great point. Healing's a hard enough thing to go through than to have yourself be so vulnerable in that moment and put it all out there on the table for everybody to see. And then to have somebody just look at you and judge you. Absolutely not. Like you're in a space where you're trying to be better. So you're right. I mean, the men that are in the group are just amazing at holding space for everyone during their
yeah.
moment.
Yep. Yep. And yeah.
So what was it? I guess you've done a lot of work over the years, over time, right? Even in Brotherhood, making realizations. What was Have you noticed yourself grow or change as a result of the work?
Mm. Well, it's one of these interesting things where I feel like when we get emotional clarity, things start to line up in our life in a totally different way. And so before Brotherhood, I really didn't have a consistent place. Like I used to have a poetry group that I would go to, and it
Okay.
was filled with these elders, and it was amazing that, they were like shamans and healers, but it wasn't as intentionally, it was more of like an artistic expression group more than it was like this. This is like a healing group. Like you go here to, be in self-reflection and things like that. And so um I would say like the main couple of shifts that I noticed for myself is I got much more routine oriented in my own life. Like I just started really honing in on the things that I knew that I needed,
Mhm.
and my focus became much stronger because I
Okay.
kind of had these, you know, reference points. Like whenever I go into the group, I'm able to kind of be like, hey, like I talked about this. And even if I don't consciously remember it, just the fact that I'm able to like talk about it and be there, it just helps to really anchor it and like ground it into my reality more. So that's probably the two main things. It's just like the routine, my focus, my inner clarity, and then also just like my love for myself and my compassion for my own demons. Like I said, like listening to these guys like just open up and share their stories, some of which like I couldn't even imagine myself going through.
Some are deep, man. Real deep.
They are, and to have them be that vulnerable is inspiring.
Yeah.
And so it inspires me to do that with myself on a day-to-day basis and to do that with the people I love. And um yeah, that's really the main thing. It's been awesome.
So what's that, I guess that one story that you can share with somebody or like kind of like a moment of either transformation or realization that you made in one of those sessions in Brotherhood?
Mm, I think one of the biggest ones is just like in many of my past relationships, I've literally given disclaimers being like, look, I'm on my own path. you
Right.
know, this relationship is secondary to that. And if you're not okay with that, then this isn't going to work, because I have a mission here and that mission comes first.
Mhm.
And, having kids and having a family and all that stuff, like as much as I want those things, it's just not as important to me in this life.
Right.
And so I think the big thing is like really on a deeper level accepting that
Mm.
and
Being
just
truthful with yourself, being honest.
being exactly. Yeah, yeah, just I can be honest and truthful with myself. I can be honest and truthful with the people around me. Um, I don't have to be as afraid as my mind tells me that I should be. And in the end, in just about every single circumstance, when that truth and when that honesty comes out in like a way that's productive, it just leads to deeper peace, to deeper alignment, and um, yeah, I kind of forgot the question while I was saying that. But
That's okay. I think everybody gets the gist. Totally,
yeah.
totally, totally get it. Um, so what would you give as a piece of advice for somebody who's out there right now struggling, going through it? It's got the challenge, the obstacles, all of those things that are weighing against them, whether they have a family, they got, whatever it is. And this might not be just safe for the guys out there, but you and I are men and we're heavily involved in this group and it's been amazing. And but the advice that you would give to someone that says, I'm struggling right now. What should I do? Like, should I go get a coach? What's it like to work with a coach in that process? And is that the best thing? What kind of advice would you give somebody in that state?
The reality of working with any sort of coach is that you're getting something called skill transfer, right? So if this coach has experience in something that you want, right? You can probably do it on your own, and that's fine. If you want to do that, that's fine. And it doesn't mean that you like have to get a coach or anything. You shouldn't feel, pressured into it or whatever. But I think it's really important to acknowledge that if you want to process through something faster, more efficiently, and, achieve the desired outcome. Like in this instance, right? It's like, had I not joined the Brotherhood, if I hadn't had a relationship coach to like work through my recent breakup, if I, all of this type of stuff, if I didn't have those things, I'd be stuck in a loop. And
Mm,
regardless of Brotherhood, regardless of like all of my own stuff, like there was a month where I struggled to work. I struggled to
mm,
work because of emotional blocks. And it took me a month, even with the help of coaches, to be able to get through that block so that I could really start like accelerating in my business again. And so I could feel this like deeper sense of peace. My sleep got better. Like, so the real cost is is just that you won't get there as fast. You'll still get there, but it's going to accelerate your path to, your desired goals if you choose to work with a mentor or a coach.
right. And I appreciate you bringing up that key aspect is I don't think people really realize that these things that they're going through in life are actually blocks for a lot of other areas in their life. Whether they own a business, they're working for a company, they have a family, whatever is going on in their life, they're probably finding all these other things much more difficult to handle than if they were dealing with their stuff per se, right? We don't want to swear, but if they're dealing with their stuff, their inner turmoil, those struggles, those challenges, like what is it, the behaviors, the patterns, all that stuff in it. And it's like, if they can just make that connection right now, and thank you for bringing up that point, make that connection that if you're struggling in all these things, ultimately the common denominator is you, so get the support you need. Absolutely.
Yep, no
What
doubt.
what last piece of advice would you give other than that to people?
I, I would say my biggest piece of advice is, if you feel alone or if you feel like you're not making progress, you need to throw yourself, and I am gonna I
Do it.
I'm really, you gotta
Fine.
throw yourself in the shit.
Do it.
You have to. Like, that's it. And like all the things that your mind tell you that you're afraid of and that they're this big scary monster that's going to hurt
Mm,
you and your safety's at threat and it means this and it means that. Sometimes you just got to do it. And it's really intimidating and really challenging at first, but the more that you do that and the more that you're willing to face those inner demons, the
mm,
more that you're going to find that you're going to be very trusting of yourself. You're going to create a deeper relationship with your reality,
right.
deeper relationship with other people, and it's just, it's what we got to do. And when we're in the reflection of other people who receive us in that, in being able to face those things, especially, it's just that much more powerful. So
Amazing words, Bryce. Seriously, amazing words. Thank you. And I think we're going to end it right there because it's pretty powerful to leave it right there. So I want to say thank you for coming on board and helping other people understand what they can expect from working with a relationship coach, maybe being part of Brotherhood, and going through that process of the inner work. So thank you so much for your time.
yeah, absolutely, Mike. Thanks for having me.